Mojo number 3. The theme of this Sew Mojo is rhythm. And rhythm is really fun. And this mini quilt is really fun. What is rhythm? Think of a song. Think of establishing a beat. That was a beat. I'm giving you a beat. And then think about adding excitement to that beat by breaking out of the beat. So we have this steady beat. This is the pattern that we've created. But then with these unconventional lines, we're shooting out from the beat. We're causing excitement in our rhythm, in our song, in our little quilt song. So we are using unconventional lines from Sew Mojo 1. We are using this asymmetrical composition as it grows from the bottom from Sew Mojo number 2. And then Sew Mojo number 3 is basically establishing that pattern, that beat, and then branching out of the beat. Okay, so a lot of people have asked me, how do you frame these mini quilts once you're finished? Let me show you. I got this frame from West Elm. You can get them from Target, you can get them from Amazon, you can get them from anywhere you want. This is a 12.5 by 12.5 inch square frame. And so I actually got this frame first and then decided to make my mini quilt to fit the frame. So this mini quilt is roughly 8.5 inch square. So I take the whole thing apart and I mount the mini quilt on top of the mat with a couple pieces of tape. I just stick it to the mat. And then I place the glass on top of the mat and the mini quilt. So it's kind of floating on that mat, but behind the glass. So it's protected from all the elements. And I think it looks really nice. Sometimes the mat hole is larger than your mini quilt, and so then you're gonna have to cut your own mat. The cheapest way to do that is to get a large mat and then cut it down yourself. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. If you need just a thick piece of paper, that could even act as a mat, so play around with it. Okay, picking colors. Colors is kind of a big deal with this mini quilt because you're working with colors that are really going to be growing off of each other and working with each other, as you do with most quilts. So think of color, think of scale, and think of variation. So these are really, really pretty Liberty of London Tana lawn fabrics. And this is obviously reading as a warm color. So warm colors, they enhance. They come forward. Cool colors, on the other hand, they retract, they recede, they blend into the background. So keep that in mind that your eye is always going to go to that warm color first and then gradually move around to the cool colors. Think about that when you're building a quilt composition. Also think about how scale interacts. Right now, these are all roughly the same scale. So I'm going to add in this stripe. It's just a really calming stripe. It's pretty neutral. It's going to fade into the background. It's just going to complement. And when you add this, look at that. When you put these together, you see these prints more clearly because your eye can rest on this neutral complement. Okay, so now that we've talked about fabric, we've talked about rhythm, let's just get into that pattern. All right, Sew Mojo number 3, all about curves. Don't let curves be a stressor for you. Our technique in this is raw edge applique, which is so fun because instead of sewing everything, oh, look at that, you use this nice little glue stick. So raid your kid's backpack, do whatever you gotta do, make your Target run. That glue stick cost me about $1.29. Pretty awesome. Okay, so this is how you cut those humps, those hills, those tiny little bumps. I cut a nice little straight edge. Gonna line that up. I didn't draw a sketch. Oh my gosh, big surprise. In my pattern, I told you to sketch out your plan, which I do encourage you to do. I did do with my first one. I did make a sketch for this guy. But because I'm going to be winging it for this video, I'm going to be showing you how to really get in touch with your improv, free-flowing quilter inside you. I'm just going to estimate, and I'm going to, plan as I go. So I know my frame that I'm going to use is going to be this bad boy. It's going to be 12.5 by 12.5. So I want my mini to be roughly 8.5 inch square. So that's going to be in the back of my head while I'm building this thing. So this is going to be my first hump. Actually, changing my mind. This is going to be my first hump. It's a little bit larger scale. Here we go. So I picked red because it's going to accentuate that focal point. Your eye is immediately going to, bam, go to the red, that first central hump. So I'm first going to slice a straight edge. I'm going to line it up with a corner on the grid of my mat. And I want to make this hump about 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to use the grid on my mat, and I'm going to draw some tick marks. You might need to draw out the whole hill and then use scissors. If you are 15 and younger watching this video, definitely use scissors. What I'm about to do with this razor sharp pizza cutter is not safe for children. Okay, so now that I drew my tick marks, I'm just going to freehand and make that nice little hill. Isn't that cute? Oh, so cute. Okay, sayonara, Liberty of London. My next one, my next fabric, I'm going to do this fun little stripe. Okay, if you have a stripe or some kind of directional fabric, make sure you are aware when you're cutting, when you're laying this out, what direction you want your fabric to be in. I have hacked this fabric to bits. You can see I've done many crazy things with it, so it has no real flat edge. So again, I'm just going to have to give myself that flat edge. I'm going to line it up with my grid. I'm going to put my little humpy hump, my little hill, on top as a guide. And I want to make this kind of narrow, because I love tall and narrow. What? Oh, and sometimes you got to do sound effects for yourself too, because that makes it more fun. Okay, I don't love the curve of this hill, so I'm going to go back in. And because I'm a righty, it's just going to be easier if I flip it. And I'm going to even out that curve because that wasn't doing it for me. Oh, isn't that cute? It kind of looks a little bit Dr. Seussy. That's Dr. Seussy. Okay, now I'm going to use another Liberty of London, kind of break it up. Do a little bit of every other action. Okay, so I'm going to get my flat line again. Actually, I'm not going to do it. No, I am. What was I thinking? You can hear my mind working, trying to do weird and out of the box things, but that one wasn't going to work. Okay, I'm lining it up with the edge of my ruler or my grid on my mat. I use my little humpy humps as a guide, and in the back of my head I'm telling myself, okay, my final mini is going to be 8.5 inches. So this is kind of how much room I have to work with. So I guess I have a little bit more room to work with. Maybe I'll kind of move you out. And I want you to be, you know what? Wouldn't that be cool if it's a little bit fatter, a little bit squatter? Okay, so we'll do you like that. So maybe an inch on this side. Let's see how it goes. Oh, that's fun. Okay, let's keep going. Now I got some really nice linen from Pearl Soho. It's really yummy. You're gonna like it. I'm gonna keep doing my thing. Is there a front and back to this? That's something people should tell me in the comments. I think it's reversible. Yes, it is reversible. Okay, so my straight lines are getting less and less straight, but you know, I don't really care. I'm going to line this up with the corner of my grid so I kind of know, okay, so here we go. Here's 8.5. That's how much we're working with. I'm going to give myself a little bit more space here. I'm actually going to take you all the way down to the 0 on my grid so I can see more or less what height I'm working with. Oh, look how nicely I cut that. There we go, fixed it. Okay, 8.5 is where you are on the bottom, and here you are on the top. So let's make this hump kind of big. And in my head, you know what I'm thinking? Let me just tell you what I'm thinking. Oh, actually, that's the 0. Oh, okay, just kidding. Have a little bit less space. Okay, so this is one thing I'm thinking. Okay, so if we have this great linen, we can kind of show off this linen, but see, look what I did here. Do you see these hand quilting stitches? So in my head I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't that be nice if I had some space to really do some fun hand quilting? So let me really kind of amp up the thickness of this tail so I can get kind of fancy with my hand quilting. We'll do that later. Okay, this side, let's see, how tall can we be? Let's go up to here. What do you say? Let's go all the way up to there. There's my little tick mark, if you can see that. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I like it. Okay, so let's move on to the next fabric. In my head I was thinking red could be nice, but remember what I was saying earlier about red enhancing? Except that would give it kind of some balance. All right, let's just go for it. Let's go for this red. We'll see what happens. If we hate it, we don't use it. No big deal. Okay, so I already have my flat line, my flat edge, that fabric. Oh, and see, look, it kind of just goes right up to the edge. This is just going to be a sliver of that red, which is actually going to be kind of cool, don't you think? Okay, so this is my 8.5, so that's going to be the edge of my mini. Maybe I should draw a guide mark because this is a tutorial video and I'm supposed to be showing you what to do and not what not to do. Okay, so here's my guide. So you're just going to be a little cute little sliver. Oh, look at that. It's getting cute. It's getting cute. Okay, one more piece of linen and then I'm going to do my background. Okay. I'm going to move you just for a second so I can get my straight edge. Again, super straight like you can see. Just flattening that out. Okay, and this is going to be my last color. So I would like this to go all the way to 8.5. But because I want some of the background to be sky, like I did in my, my first Sew Mojo, I'm going to have it go to be about 8 at the top. So here is my 8-inch marker right here. And we're going to start there. We're going to see how this goes. Look at that. That's pretty fun. Okay, where's my background piece? Okay, I have this cream scrap. And this actually doesn't need to go all the way to the edge because I want my quilt to be 8.5. So it doesn't need to go all the way to the bottom edge. If I don't have enough fabric, that would be fine. But it looks like I do, so why not? Oh, you know what? I didn't cut that 8.5. I cut that 8. Huh. Alrighty, well, here we go. So this is me squaring it off. So in the pattern I say square off 3 edges, then line it up with however much room you need down at the bottom, and then you have your whole background. But as you can see, I'm going to have some white showing at the bottom. Okay, so here's 8.5, and I'm going to show you, this is how I square stuff off. I go like this, and I go like this, because I like it to be wonky. I think it gives it a cool handmade look. Yeah. Okay, so now I have all the pieces cut. I want to alleviate some bulk because I know I'm going to do some hand stitching. So like I said in the pattern, every third hill, I'm going to draw a guide mark about a 1/2 inch away. I'm going to just kind of draw this guideline because I'm going to cut out the excess background of this fabric. It's going to be covered up by these hills in front of it. And so I don't want layers and layers of fabric that I'm going to have to punch through with a needle if I do some hand quilting. Okay, so I drew my guideline right here. So I'm just going to take my rotary cutter and make sure that you don't cut out too much fabric, because then you're going to be left with a hole in your pretty little mini quilt. Okay, so now I have these, which I can, you know, maybe use in the future. You could do something fun. This raw edge applique method is just going to let you do anything you want. Look at this. You can do petals. Okay, another video, another time. So I've cut out this excess. That's going to help me out later. And you can see that you can't even tell. So I put it on, and you can't even tell. So now I'm going to grab my batting, which in my flurry of fabric, I have now lost. Batting, where are you? I found you. Okay, I found you. Okay, moving you to the side. So here's my piece of batting, and it is 1 inch larger on all 4 sides than 8.5 because I want to give myself some wiggle room. So I'm going to start back to front, just like you would if you were painting a picture. I place this backing on my batting, and I'm going to glue base, and I'm actually even just going to glue a little bit of it to the batting. So I take my glue stick. This is when your kid might walk in and say, "What are you doing with my glue stick?" Say I'm making art. So it's going to stick really nicely. And you know what? This is going to go behind a frame, so it doesn't even matter that you're using a glue stick. However, if you were to use this technique on an actual quilt that you were going to wash, this glue does wash out. A lot of people use glue as a basting tool. Okay, so that is set. Okay, now I'm going to add some glue to that, just little bits. If I can rig up some background music during this, I will, so it's not so boring. You can't hear me like mouth breathing into the camera. Okay, so just because I want to get a feel for what this is going to look like again, I'm going to add some more. You know, what am I going to do? I'm going to add, to kind of break up my rhythm, I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to add some 1/2 inch strips to this hill. That's going to be fun. And I want to make sure I add these strips before I add my next hill, because I want to tuck the edges under. See, I want to tuck the edges under. That's going to be really cute. Okay, so maybe I want to make this strip actually kind of thinner. And before I glue it down, I just place it down to see, hey, do I like that? Yeah, I do. I do like that. So I just add a touch of glue, just enough so that it stays in place when I'm sewing it on my machine. And you can see, look, I can't even, you can peel it up if you put some force into it, but the glue really does hold pretty well. Do I want a 3rd strip? That's the question you're probably asking yourself right now. Does she want a 3rd strip there? I don't know, guys. Let's see. Does a 3rd strip look good? This is when it would be fun to have like a group project going, because you know, sometimes you ask yourself these questions and you just don't really know the answer. I actually like 2 better, so I'm going to take you off. Okay, next hill. Just going to keep gluing it down with my little glue stick. And now that you're seeing this glue stick raw edge applique technique, I mean, sky is the limit. You can do anything. You could do a portrait of your dog with raw edge applique and glue stick. You know, a little scrappy portrait. Okay, next one, next hill. We're just growing this baby. Let's think about the next stripes I want to add in. I'm thinking a red stripe. What do you think? Red stripe? I think so. I think that could be cool. And this is also a really fun project to get rid of all of your hundreds of little teeny scrappies that you have, your little scrap fabrics. Whoa. Uh-oh. So you see my fingers are getting a little bit sticky? So that'll happen. If you get really crazy with your glue stick, you might have to go wash your hands. I'm going to do 3 strips on this side. Very decided. I'm going to be really decisive with this one. It's going to be 3 strips. Yep, loving it. Loving it. Okay, so taking my glue stick, just give it a little dab. Little dab. Oh, you know, I'm gonna move you. And I didn't even glue you down, so that's kind of crazy. So some of these little pieces might kind of move on you. Whoa. Also, I should mention that different fabrics have different levels of stretch. You may notice that this linen I'm using is crazy stretchy. Keep that in mind if you're a new quilter. I would use just regular quilting cotton your first time around because that's not going to stretch as much as, say, denim or linen. I don't know about felt. I've actually no idea about felt. Someone should write that in the comments. Wool, again, I have no idea. Okay. I'm kind of channeling for like a minute. I was a high school art teacher. It was awful. The kids were crazy. I could not control them. But this is bringing me back to those days, these like craftsy, glue sticky days. Okay, this one's gonna go here. And it's okay if you get some glue on the batting. You actually could glue it. You know what I'm going to do? Just flip this over completely. Bam. These are things that occur to you halfway in. You think, oh, why didn't I just do that in the first place? Well, I am kind of stretching it though. Because I cut this fabric on the bias, it's a little bit stretchy. So try not to stretch it. You don't want it to get bubbly on you. Kind of pushing it. Oh, this is getting super cute. Okay, now for you. I think that's how I want it. I think I'm good with stripes. Maybe I'll add some more white stripes to the center. Maybe just like a vertical, maybe thick to thin. What do we think? I'm not being decisive about that one. I think that may mean no. I don't know. What do you guys think? No? Okay. You don't have to glue it down a ton, just enough so that when you take it to your sewing machine, it's not going to completely go crazy and fall off. Are we good? Is this kind of together? Let's do a little bit more. Maybe some down here too. I'm also going to baste it with pins once I get this thing situated. So now that I think I have my mini quilt as I would like it, kind of looks like a rocket ship, a Liberty of London rocket ship. I'm just going to take pins and I'm going to pin it so that when I go to my machine and start stitching it down, it's not going to shift even more. So as you can see, I always use my walking foot when quilting. So I take my mini and I'm going to go pretty slowly and I quilt as close to the edge as I can. And my first priority is to go around each hill and tack it down. And then after that, I just start quilting away. So now I'm going to move this pin. And you see how easy it is? And if I start to get kind of tripped up and things start pulling, I just put my needle down and I can shift the fabric as I need it to. And sometimes these little really curvy areas can be tricky, so just keep your needle down. Just give it a little shift. Give it a little shift. So there's no pulling, especially with some of these stretchier fabrics like linen, that might be necessary. And you do this with each one of your hills. And then you can add as much decorative quilting as you want after that. And instead of picking up my foot and starting on the next hill, I just keep my needle down and I pivot, and then I go to the next hill. And I stop, and I pivot, and I work my way back up the other side, up the hill, down the hill. Just like that. I now have this cute little mini, and you can see that I did some vertical quilting right here and some extra little quilting right here. But for the most part, I really just focused on tacking down those raw edges. And you can see that there are some little fuzzies, and if those really bug you, you can take some, here we go, you can take some tiny little scissors and you can snip those fuzzies. But you know, behind glass, it's actually really nice because it just shows that it was made from fabric, that it was made by hand. And I think those little teeny handmade qualities are super special. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim that excess backing just so I can get a clear vision of what my mini is going to look like before I start hand quilting. You don't have to hand quilt, you can just stop right here. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you how I hand quilt. And you'll see as I'm cutting that I don't even cut that precisely. Again, because I like the way it looks when you can see bits of the process in the artwork. I think it really makes the viewer interested in the process. I think it adds dimension, and it just shows that, you know, again, this was handmade. This was not purchased as a, you know, a print that was, you know, at Target, or a print that was run off a printer 100 times. So you can see, look, I even have little bits of batting kind of hanging out there. Oh, and you'll notice I did add some stripes just because I felt like it. Okay, there's my canvas right here. And I'm going to try to teach myself on this brand new camera that I have how to zoom in. I figured it out. Okay, so now I reach into my, whoa, it's so zoomed in. I reach into my huge little bin of number 8. Where are you, camera? Number 8, DMC pearl cotton thread. That is what I prefer. A lot of people like other stuff. There's Sulky that has a really nice thick hand quilting thread. Also, some people have told me that they like embroidery floss. They'll just get a couple strands and use that for hand quilting. And I don't see why not. Yeah, go for it. Okay, so I'm gonna pull out, oh, this is fun. I'm gonna pull out this color. And I'm going to do a nice little trim, little hand quilting trim around the edge. Okay, so these are my tools, everybody. This is my number 1 tool. I love this thimble. I love it so much. I put it under my pillow at night. I put it on this finger just because that's what feels nice to me. I use Clover Gold Eye embroidery needles. The size doesn't really matter a ton. That's what I like. Also, this is going to save your life. This is a needle threader. I'm going to show you how to use it. It's going to save your life. So I'm just going to pull out what do you call this? A needle. Yes, thank you. And I put the, is this camera going to focus? Focus. 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 Is it focused? Okay, I think it's focused, but see, you first slip the needle threader into the needle eye, and then you put the thread into the needle threader, pull it through a little bit, and then you pull it all through. And you see that? So now your needle is threaded. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit because I know how to do that now. If you're a tech person watching this, I'm sorry. I know it's painful. I know. I'm going to give myself enough thread to go all the way around this hill. I'm going to knot this thread. It doesn't need to be a big knot, just enough to not pull through. So I'm going to double knot it. Take my cute little embroidery scissors, give it a cut. Okay, so typically you would pop your knot through. You don't have to do that because it's so small. You can literally just start from the back and no one's going to see the back, so it doesn't matter. But I'm going to pretend like you want to hide this knot and you're actually quilting a real, like a big quilt. So I'm going to zoom in even more. And I'm going to show you how I pop it in. So let's say I want the stitches to start right here. I'm going to go in, and just because I don't have much space, I'm going to go in from the top. And I'm just going to snag that top fabric. I don't want to go all the way to the back. I'm just going to snag that top. So even though I don't have backing, you still can't see it on this batting. It can go through the batting, but make sure it doesn't go through the backing. So I put all the way through. And look, I definitely don't want that knot to show. So I'm going to kind of brace it. And it's delicate. Well, I just pulled it all the way through. But it's delicate because I'm not working with much here. But ideally, you would just pull it through that first. Let's just try it again so you actually know what I'm talking about. Okay, we're going to give it a second go. Here we go. Because you're probably like, Susie, you just messed it up in the video. Obviously it doesn't work. It does work. So you just pop it. Oh, look at that. So you doubted me. So look, it's hidden, which is really, really nice because you don't have a quilt full of knots that you don't want. Okay, so now I'm going to start quilting. And I like to get a couple stitches at a time. And it's kind of hard to do it when your little quilt is so small. Normally you have a big quilt, and so you have a lot of weight to work with. But see how I got 2 stitches? I'm going to pull it through. Oh, so cute. And you know, I said this in my Sew Mojo 1 video, that my stitches are not even. And I actually like it like that. I like hand stitching to look hand stitched. Because if I wanted it to look like it was done on a machine, I would just do it on my machine. So I'm using this hill as a guide. And I continually just keep going around, taking a couple stitches at a time. And actually, when I am hand quilting a large quilt, I don't use a hoop. I just lay it flat on a table, and I hand quilt it flat on a table, similarly to how I'm doing it right now. Voila. Okay, now that I'm getting to the end of my string, my thread, I'm going to show you how I tie it off. And because this is a mini, I would actually recommend that you just go through your last stitch and then tie it off on the back. But I'm going to show you how to tie it off if you were to be quilting and you didn't want any knots to show. So I'm going to do my last few stitches. And I don't know if I showed this to you, but I really press with this needle, or this thimble, so I rock it and then I press with that finger. It's a kind of a rocking motion. You'll hear that a lot if you watch other quilting YouTube videos. All about the rock, super rock and roll. I think I used that joke in my last video. I better write that down so I don't keep using it. Okay, so I'm at the end. about a 1/4 inch away from that stitch. You're going to give it a knot, maybe 2. I'm kind of a double knotter. And, oh, okay. And you would, see how I don't have much left, but you basically would do the same thing you did when you started, is you just skim the top. You get that first little bit of fabric, not all the way to the end. You pull it through and you pop it. You pop it in. And you might have to kind of smooth it out a little bit afterwards, but, and this, you can see the knot is just kind of hanging out there. If this was a bigger quilt and you were hiding your stitches, this would burrow itself into the batting and it would get really nice. It would get really nice and stuck. And so those stitches would be super permanent and you wouldn't have to worry about them coming out. Now I'm going to do some more hand quilting, probably a few rows here, and I don't know, maybe a row here. Just kind of feel it out, see what looks good. And you know, it's not permanent, so if you stitch a row and you hate it, just rip it on out. Nothing is permanent. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I can't wait to see what you make.